think about what is core to an app, breaking through, being successful, I think it really begins with this idea of usefulness.
I 100% agree. I think it's absolutely fundamental that when you're creating products and services within the health space, whether it's health and wellness, pharmaceuticals, or public health, you really need to focus on implementing some kind of behavior change framework, and then using that as the jumping off point to then go and create your different features, which you then prototype and put into testing. I think for us, we've experimented with a lot of different frameworks, whether it's COM-B, whether it's RAMP, and we've found that fundamentally, when you use that as your starting point, you do end up with stickier and more effective products.
So, question actually, one thing we think about a lot and consider when we're creating different utility digital applications to help people is thinking about what is our first premise, what problem are we trying to solve when we kick off and start like ideating, and then how do we learn about what's actually helping out in the world and iterating and like getting smarter and like learning about, there's what people say is going to be helpful and then what we see them actually use.
So for us, some really tangible examples of where we've done that are on an app that we developed for weight management here in the UK that's had over 1 million users. From looking at the data, we saw that there was a good percentage of people making it to the end of the program. It was a 12-week program, which is great. We actually went through an independent academic evaluation and found that people who make it to the end lose 6% of their body mass. But we also found that we had a large percentage of people who were dropping off after 3 weeks. And so that insight has then led us to start looking at how we can start to provide both in-app features, but also real-world alternatives that actually augment the app experience. So in this specific example, what we've actually done is partnered with local authorities here in the UK, where we're actually sending users to local weight management services. So we see the app as the start point, teaches you the behaviors, teaches you the insights that you need to make a change, but then we're equipping you with the tools that you need to make that change offline. And maybe one back to you, like what's like the best example that you've seen over at RGA where you've implemented something that has really led to tangible behavior change?
Well, we have a couple of different versions. We do a lot of work in the sport and fitness world. So one example is literally, it was actually this great insight that kicked off this entire community program. But the insight was this: people who make the commitment to exercising on a Sunday will more likely actually exercise for the rest of that week. So you get them to do that one behavior that one time. We literally have the data to say they are going to therefore, run 12 miles where they might have run zero. So again, talking about like a very focused pace. So we created an entire community based around an app where everyone was asked to do that one behavior on a Sunday. And therefore we saw that like actual shift in how they attacked their week. So that was one example where it was like talking about health enthusiasts, like stepping up to that next place and committing to what they wanted to commit to. We're also in the process of working through on the other spectrum, looking at people in the metabolic syndrome kind of world. How can they start making better choices every day and have a more useful and honest conversation with their physician?
Do you know, I think that's a really interesting example where on one hand, you've got health behavior change at an individual level. How can I change my behaviors to live a healthier life? But on the other, you've got a really interesting patient activation angle. How can I equip myself with the knowledge or even the behaviors that enable me to have a more productive conversation with my HCP and then ultimately have better outcomes?
Yeah, it's an exciting space. I really can't wait to see where it goes next.